Welcome back to another episode of Meredith with a Y. I am your host, Meredith Willits, and today I am so pleased to have on the show Kaila Yu. She's an author, journalist, cultural commentator. Her new book, Fetishized, A Reckoning with Yellow Fever, Feminism, and Beauty explores identity, stereotypes, and what it means to reclaim your own narrative. She has been featured in the New York Times, Rolling Stone, CNN, Business Insider, and Teen Vogue. And I'm so excited to talk to her today. So stay with us. Hello, everyone. This is Meredith with a Y, and I am your host, Meredith Willits. Today we are going to go deep, changing lives, and I am giving you the keys to the castle. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so honored to have you on today. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love the intro too.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me just say I got your book and had no idea what I was getting myself into. I have read Memoirs of a Geisha. I have read The Joy Luck Club. I am that girl.
Okay.
Okay. Growing up. And so
Yeah. Those are huge when I
they're
was growing up, they're huge.
huge books. And at the same time, still having a lot of distance between culture and self. And, you know what what you're
Mhm.
taught. But if you don't have a relationship with that community, it can be very, blinders on to what you're reading. I never write down questions. It's my 208th episode, so 4 years. I have questions. Give a look around. I don't know your book to make I just. Let me just start off first. Memoirs, like Memoirs of a Geisha, have been criticized for perpetuating falsehoods, and the Joy Luck Club has been criticized for reinforcing stereotypes. And you mentioned in your book that your parents very much kind of expected you to be subordinate. And your dad was very distant to you growing up, which I think, and I'm sure you do at this point in your life, can see definitely that trajectory of that father-daughter relationship
Mhm.
playing itself out throughout the life and this podcast and your book. How do you kind of reconcile those books and your lived reality, and how we're still perpetuating those themes in schools today and across the community of people that are reading these books?
I just think it's such a different time now because we have so much other Asian representation. I mean, it was a lot more influential then because, like, when Memoirs of a Geisha came out and Joy Luck Club, those were the only Asian books. So then you kind of assume all Asians are like that because there's no other examples. Um, like with K-pop and with now
Yeah.
the number one movie on Netflix is K-pop Demon Hunters, and number one TV show was Squid Game. So that's
Yeah.
like insane. I can't even imagine that as a kid because I had, basically nothing. So I think it's real easier for kids now to see multifaceted representations of themselves. Me, it's been like a slow growth, and I think it's like
Yeah.
probably a lifetime journey for me. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even I flew, I think it was Korean Airlines a few years back, and I still believe they do, with the white face and the reddish tinted lips and so on and so forth. They're
Oh,
still feeding into these Asian stereotypes. Don't get me
well,
wrong, best flight I've ever been on, but
yeah, it's funny. It's funny because when you go on the Asian airlines, they are so much like more comfortable than American Airlines because the stewardesses are super, super nice, but they're
so
also
good.
kind of that, very old school like Pan Am. The weight matters still. They're still, I think,
Yeah.
weight checked, and they're always very beautiful. So there's like a requirement of beauty. So that patriarchal expectation still exists on Asian airlines.
Yeah. I mean, going back to that moment when you felt like, I have to write this down, like, I have to memorialize this in written form, like, what was that? Was that scary? Like, what was going on where you're like, "Damn, I'm writing this stupid book if it kills me?" Which I'm
Yeah.
sure that wasn't going through your head at one moment.
Yeah, I mean, I had no intention of like ever in my life writing a memoir or like writing a cultural criticism. But what happened is like the pandemic happened basically. And then all this Asian hate started happening. And of course,
Yeah.
like I've never experienced any straight up racism where anybody comes into my face and like says, go back home. Like I'll get trolled online, but everybody gets shit talking when you're a personality on the internet, right? But like
Yeah.
during the pandemic, there was just like rampant, like there was a stop Asian hate movement because the hate was like little old Asian ladies were walking on the street and getting beat up by
Yeah.
like young men.
Yeah.
So it was very shocking to me. And then we were in the midst of that. And then a year later, the Atlanta spa shootings happened. So
Mm.
that's when the sex addicted man went and shot 8 people dead, and 6 of them were Asian women. So then the media kind of said, oh, this isn't racially or sexually motivated, but we knew it was.
Yeah.
So that was like kind of the moment that sparked the inspiration for the book.
Yeah, I remember, obviously going through COVID and hearing the racism about, COVID and, the flu, as they would,
Yeah,
and being as uncomfortable in hearing that as, hearing the N word or whatever. Like, I remember just feeling gross and people trying to find someone to blame. And so that, I mean, that totally makes so much sense of bringing the truth out of what you've experienced. Stereotypes. I mean, it's wild. You talked about women being viewed as trophies, and that trophies can be thrown away, but they're also coveted. And such an interesting, like, the one thing about your book is the way that you opened up about these things. And I can only speak from one white woman's perspective, but I think that I'm very open-minded. I think I'm a perpetual learner. And so when you were describing these things like the pornography, Asian women are in degrading stereotypes as like the war prostitute or the submissive student. Like, I had never ever thought of it like that. Like, it just is. But when you broke it down in the book, my brain was just like, holy shit, like, this is so wild. Do you think that this is something that, like, more people don't even understand that they're walking and thinking and it's not pointed out to them so they don't realize it?
absolutely. Remember, like we're going through a reckoning of like the 2000s right now, right? We're revisiting how we treated Britney Spears and like Pamela Anderson victims, Paris Hilton, who like had this sex tape put out by her like grooming boyfriend against her will. And then we all
Yeah.
called her a slut, you know? So I think that it's again, we know what we know, right? So yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
everyone's aware. And I think that it's just good to look critically on all things. Because I think during the early 2000s, we thought we were feminist, or
Yeah.
feminist was a dirty word. So we thought we were pro female or like we were like
Yeah.
empowered. But when we look back, there's a lot of misogyny going on from women to women still.
Women to women, and I think that that's such a good point, like, and I appreciate the graciousness of we know what we know, because but it is true, like, we're not it's not put in our face and going, "Hey, look what you're doing, like look what you're consuming, look what you're okay with. However, you also talk about how you benefited from playing those roles either on film or, in movies, um, photography work, that you got more clicks when you leaned into those roles. And that's so hard. I mean, there's so many times, even for myself as being a content creator, it's like, do I go sexier? Do I
Hmm.
go more provocative? Do I go more? I know that if I say XYZ, I'm going to get more clicks. There's
Hmm.
a bit of it of kind of pouring ourselves out as creators, right? Because it pays the bills, it gets the clicks, it gets the comments. When you look back, or when you're looking at young girls coming up, are you just like screaming like don't do it, or do you understand it because you've been there?
I understand it, and I also know that I made the choice to go this more like a male gaze a direction. There's other options that don't chase that. That's what seemed like the most empowering to me. But like for example, I just watched the Bonnie Blue documentary. Yeah. Um, she's received a lot of hate, but I didn't see her as a hateful person. Um, and I write about Anna. I forgot her name. Write about this other Asian pornography star who did a gangbang. I can't remember her name at the moment, but like she did the world record for it at the time. And I watched
Yeah.
that too because I wrote about it in the book. And we are in a society, yeah, where the algorithm pushes you to like, that's why we're getting these like conspiracy theories because those are getting rewarded, so people are posting more like fake news. So there are options. There's a plenty that you can do to get success on TikTok by being authentic and without chasing um losing yourself.
Yeah.
So um yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to like tell, a 20-year-old, you probably couldn't have told me to stop at that time, and
Yeah.
I wasn't like I was doing a lot of drugs and alcohol too, so I wasn't like in a place to be thinking critically. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And then who am I to tell somebody? For
What's right for
me,
them?
yes, I was not authentically a sexual vixen. That just like is not my personality. But for another woman, that may be very authentically empowering to her.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love when you talk about the male gaze. I think this is such a great conversation for anybody. I just had Adrienne Curry on, and she just on the podcast, my other podcast, TikTok Famous. She had just made a video recently. I didn't realize that she was right swinging politically, and she just made a video recently, which is giving me a little bit of criticism for having her on, which I'm okay with. But that she said, if you don't want to get male comments, why are you dressing for men? And she's just being, obviously taken to task for that comment. Um, when I think so many women, and maybe it's as we get a little bit older, I think a lot of times women dress for women. Men just happen to be paying attention,
Yeah.
and I don't think a lot of people get that. We might be dressing for the male gaze or to look pretty or to feel confident or whatever, but you were actually getting paid big money to dress for the male gaze. I mean, you were in calendars, you're, on in magazines, you're everywhere. As you were growing up, you were in the Fast and the Furious. So, like, when you were doing all of this, and when you were dressing your band members in your band, I mean, obviously, maybe not obviously, you were very aware of the male gaze because you were getting paid for it. Like, where are you at now when you're getting dressed to go someplace or do something or be on social media? Who are you dressing for these days?
definitely for myself, I appreciate my female followers the most, but like I am a little more conservative in my dress. I'm older too, so I'm not like dressing like a 20-year-old, but I do kind of like make sure not to show too much. That just was comfortable for me. I don't think there's anything wrong. You should be able to show all the cleavage you want in the world. It's just that we live in the society where like it is a male gaze and we live in a patriarchy, and it's not safe to walk down the alley at night in a sexy dress when it should be okay, you know, for
Right.
us women to wear whatever we want. So yeah, really dress more for my I'm a very girly girl, so I like floral dresses and like ruffles and stuff like that. So I don't think that's like particularly for the male gaze. But in the 2000s, like the male gaze was even more centered than it is today,
Yeah.
because like Playboy magazine was king, and FHM and Stuff magazine, all those magazines are now like kind of, I mean, I think Maxim is still around, but it doesn't have the same cachet it did in the 2000s. So,
Yeah, I mean, do
yeah.
you look back at your Playboy time and think, "Wow, I was in Playboy." Like, that's kinda huge. Like, I mean, some people might be like, "Oh, wow." I'm your girl that's gonna be like, "You go." Like, "Damn Skippy." Like, that's huge. Is it surreal to you to look back at that?
It is. I mean, I look at some of my photos from my 20s. Like, if I knew what I knew now, I would take a different path. But, like, I still look back at those photos and I'm like, oh, wow, these are like really, I'm glad I have these. But would I go shoot them again? Would I pose for Playboy right now if I was offered? No. And then knowing what we know about like Hugh Hefner being like an
Mm,
evil predator, and we
yeah.
worshiped him, like all the celebrities went to his parties and treated him like he was a god. um, I wish he was alive to see how his empire was crumbled. I
It
just
is
think he's
wild.
pure evil, yeah.
It is wild to look back, but I mean, it's kind of like the rich person in town and everyone wants to go to their parties and
Yeah,
do all the things. They just
overlook,
wanna get, to be
yeah.
seen or whatever. I'm sure looking at it, it's very much, still the cool girl kind of, we wanna get invited to that party. I, um I learned a few years ago on this very podcast, I had, the host of Dear White Women, podcast
Mm,
on here, and they are just absolutely fantastic and a wealth of information. And they introduced me to this concept of the acceptable race. And you kind of touch on that in your book. And I had never heard of this before. And it's something that, it's the double-edged sword, right? Like you're the acceptable, but you're Asian, but you're not white, but you're not Asian enough to be considered Asian by Asians
mhm.
from Asia, living in Asia. And she talked about that. I had another gal on, South Asian, and she's like, I grew up in Southern California, and then I went to India to go to school, and they're like, "You're not Indian." But then she lived in Southern California, and they're like,
Yeah,
"You're not American."
mhm.
Did you feel that growing up, that you had to kind of play this part all the time and never kind of fit anywhere? And then add that to your dad kind of having this, physical distance from you, like finding a place to land. I think a lot of women look for a place to land. And did you feel that? And, also with the acceptable race, like there's so much going on there.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely felt so uncomfortable in my skin. I didn't even realize it until maybe like 15 years ago, after like
Mm.
getting sobriety and going to therapy, that I was like just doing all this drugs and alcohol to like escape from being in my body and being in my head. And yeah, the acceptable race thing is like the concept of the model minority, which is
So
like
wild.
presents Asian Americans as like studious and hardworking and upwardly more mobile. And then that's used to pit them against other races to say, like, oh, well, they're doing it, why can't you? And then a lot of Asians will play into it because it gives them white adjacency, which equals power, but it's power with a ceiling. You can only get to a certain level. And you can also be kicked out at any time on a whim, right? So it's not
Yeah.
real power.
It's like back to that trophy. You won it,
Yes.
but it can also be discarded.
Yes.
And that's what I have to say about your book. It's just, when I was just talking to an educator the other day, I'm like, I don't know what grade, but this should be required reading. Like it is so eye-opening to all of these concepts, and not only from the perspective of race or culture or feminism, um, but especially feminism. Like there were so many things as I read through your book, and I'm like, that's me. That's
Mm-hmm.
me. I'm 52 now, and it's wild to look back of how many things that I didn't even really realize were from discomfort, alcohol, promiscuity, all of these things come from a place of not feeling like you belong or that you are comfortable. Like it's just, it should be required reading for, even like freshman college, I think, because you talk about, and it just, what we're going through with this whole Epstein, and it's just like believe women, but not in this experience, believe women
Mm.
on a knife. You write about your rape that was videotaped and distributed millions of times, which I want to talk about. Don't let me forget the fact that they took down so many videos once they had to take down videos without consent. But you watched it for the first time 25 years later. How have you had to work through that personally? I know professionally you change so much of these kind of you porn sites where they can just put up whatever they want, and it was changed that, sorry for the long question, there was like 11 million videos or something taken
Something
down
like that, yeah.
up, and then 9 million were taken down. Like there was literally 3 million videos left on this damn site, once we realized that 70% of the videos on this site did not have consensual videos. These were not videos of consent, and yours was not a video of consent. Um, how where are you at with that?
That's a lifetime healing journey. Um, I mean, in my book, I talk about there's a separation where, like, I think when that assault happened, it was kind of the moment where Elaine cleaved in. My
Yeah,
legal name is Elaine, cleaved
yeah,
into Kaila. And I've always thought that happened to Elaine. She's like a loser. She's pathetic. And Kaila would fight back. Kaila would like do this and that. So a lot of that, so I associate Elaine with my little girl. So that's like a lot of inner child work, a lot of like IFS, internal family systems therapy, and all this stuff, and all this like, I'm reading this book right now that I'm like recommending to everyone called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. And
mm,
it is really just programming yourself to have your default setting just be like, I love myself. Because
yeah,
as women in this society, that is not our default. Our default's like, oh, I need to lose 2 pounds, or like, oh, I need to do this. And then the beauty standards keep changing. So you can never like, oh, first it was Paris Hilton when we were growing up skinny, and now it's like Kim Kardashian, and nobody fits either of these
yep.
stereotypes, but we're trying to like live up to them. So I think we all need to be taught a lot more self-love instead of seeking love from male gaze, or even your partner, or even your parents, or your friends, like
Or the
self-love.
programming of society and social media, like you're saying. I mean, because you're right. Like all these women go in and they're having the BBLs, right?
Yeah.
And I know you had surgery. You mentioned in your book on your eyes to make them wider, and now you go on social media and you see these women having their eyes pulled back and up as much as possible and having surgery on there, and it's just like we're all just chasing this chaos. And as soon as we think we have it figured out, it's low rise, high
They
rise.
changed the beauty standard. I mean, I was at the salon the other day. getting my hair done, and there was this 20-year-old girl, very pretty, but she was talking about how she had buccal fat surgery and how she
Oh,
liked it now, but now she knows in 10 years or 15 years she's going to have to put fat back in because it's going to
yep.
not look bad as she's aging. And I'm like, oh my God, like, where did this buccal fat thing even come from? Like, that's just an
Yeah.
invented, completely fabricated beauty standard.
Yeah, and then yeah, because they want you to look like you have these humongous cheekbones, and I mean, if you don't put the filler in, then you gotta make this smaller, like,
Yeah.
it's just but it's tough, like, I talk about, programming all the time on here, and it's just like we're programmed by our parents and school and church and society and social media and friends, and we spend, like, the first 18, 20 years getting programmed, and then we try to figure out for the next 20, and then the last 20, we're, like, undoing all of that, and it's like, gosh, when we don't wanna wait till we're in our 50s and 60s to finally land and go, well, for myself, it was so funny because I was just, like, getting ready before we went live today, and I'm like, "God, my life got exponentially better when I learned how to do my own hair." Like, meaning not s pull it and curl it, like, just, like, let it do its thing and get it wet,
Mm,
and, and I'm watching my, 16-year-old, like, pulling it and curling it, straightening it out, and all of these things, and I'm like, she has hair down to, like, past her bra strap, and it's like mine, but she, like, straightens it all out, and I'm like, "Oh my god, you'd look like a lioness." It would be so breathtaking if you would just, love the hair that you
mm,
have,
yeah.
and it's just like, but, she's just looking around, and everyone's got straight hair around her, and she's like, "I wanna look like that. I wanna fit in. I wanna, like, not be above the fray," but, yeah, it definitely is a journey, but I think that, like, talking about this the way we are and on social media, even if we're just planting some seeds to these young girls, like, they're still being planted because
Mhm,
guess what? The fashion designers and the models and the this, that, and the plastic surgeons, they are planting seeds. So I think that if we have a
yeah.
little bit of, equality across the board of planting the right seeds, then maybe it'll hit. Um, you shared in your book about how your boyfriend at the time didn't believe that you were raped because there was no gun or knife involved. And now again, like I brought up a minute ago, Epstein, we're dealing with, not believing women because hey, they went there. They went to the house, like
Yeah.
they didn't have to. How do you see like are we ever going to believe women? Like ever?
Well, I will say at least after Me Too, we believe women more. I think right now we made so much progress, and whenever there's tons of progress, there's a pushback. And unfortunately, we're in the pushback and it's really bad. But I'm like a hopeful person. So I feel like hopefully when it all settles, we'll still be forward than where we were before. But yeah, we do still have a very long way to go because it doesn't matter where you went or what you were wearing, like you shouldn't be assaulted. Like it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I have, a daughter who is, voluptuous, and I have to, as a mom of the, 80s and 90s, just about bite my tongue off because all of her friends are wearing that. All of her friends, look different than she does, and I just have to be like, "Oh god," but, her dad and I, my husband and I are just like, this is what the kids are wearing. We can't use our fear and put that on her because she just wants to get dressed and leave the house. It's tough though. Did you see that documentary or maybe it was an art installation and then I think that they made videos about it about what was she wearing? Have you seen that?
No.
Oh my god. It is chilling. A diaper,
Oh,
a wedding dress.
yeah.
Like, it's like the what was she wearing because of the fact that we do blame women for what they were wearing, and so they did this entire installation of what she was wearing when she was assaulted or
Oh my
raped,
God, that is disturbing.
and yeah, when and they put it all over this, art gallery, and it's everything from a diaper to a wedding dress, and it's just absolutely eye-opening and just makes you want to slap yourself and go, oh my gosh, like this. And I saw something else recently that reminded me while I was reading your book, and it was this idea, like when you see and when you hear people talk about oh, she's got daddy issues, why aren't we blaming the dad?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that's
Um,
so good.
yes, it's always the blame's always put on the woman, even in their verbiage that we use.
Yes.
Um, with my dad, though, I always want to say, like, my dad was so kind. Like, he was a good man, but he was not taught, like, in our culture to be affectionate and like there's this I saw this book that came out by another author, which was like, they feed us, but they never say I love you. You know, it's just like an Asian cultural thing. And I think it's changing now in generations. But yeah, if we could teach fathers that this really matters. I was just reading Gwyneth Paltrow's biography, not memoir because it's not authorized, but like it
Oh,
basically tells how like her father was just thought she was the most amazing thing in the world and told her so since she was a little baby, and like championed her and supported her and everything, and was just like this perfect father. And as a result, she just like floated up to an Oscar easily. Like there seemed to be very little strife in that journey.
it's like, but of course this is what I'm doing. But of course,
Yes, yeah.
like, and I even see that with my own daughters. It's just like they speak up for themselves, they ask for what they want, they're very self-actualized, they get rid of friends that, are assholes, and I'm just over there like, God, what is that like? Like, I can't even imagine. Like, even when they're assertive and like I'm around, I'm always like, oh, it's just a little like there's still that part of me that is still that people pleaser. And I'm always like so inspired by them. I'm a Libra. They're both Scorpios. So they're
Mm.
always teaching me to be more assertive and stand up for myself. And, they're both always like, Mom's a baddie. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that and run with it for the day. Without a doubt. I think that it's so wild to see, like, speaking of generational changes, like this K-pop and Crazy Rich Asians. And what do you think when you're looking at these shows that are showing how much money? I mean, my son went to Miami of Ohio and he'd be like, Mom, you see all these Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and he's like, these people are all from China. Like, they ship the cars over, or like they're multi millionaires. Do you think that a lot of that money being shown and understood by Americans is changing our view and going, oh shit, these are people we need to kind of look at? These are people that are like, they've got their shit together in such a different way that maybe we weren't. Like, we probably looked at, so growing up, it would be like, okay, China, and I'm speaking only of China right now, is, communist, and, we're better than them. And so now it's like, oh, wait, we might have had that wrong. When we're seeing the reality of the situation. Do you think that that money and showing us that money and fame and ability and talent on K-pop is changing a lot of the conversation, especially for these young kids watching?
Definitely. It's called soft power. So like I just made a video about it, like the K-pop and like what they call Korean wave with the K-pop and K-drama that's like taking over the world right now was not accidental. Like the Korean government invested millions of dollars
Wow.
encouraging these companies to like create the factories to like build the K-pop stars. And this isn't like limited to South Korea. Thailand did the same kind of campaign with Thai food. The British government does it with the Queen, like Queen is like useless, but it has a lot of soft power in the world, or not the Queen, now the King.
Yeah.
So they keep it because it keeps the British monarchy, keeps the country very relevant and powerful.
Yeah.
And Hollywood has like kept our influence of the America, for decades. So absolutely, I think it has a huge influence. Soft power for different countries can change entire perceptions.
That's so huge. I never really, God, am I stupid? I never really thought of it that way. Like,
No,
it's just
nobody would
like,
know, yeah, unless you actually read about it, happened upon it.
yeah, that's so interesting. Like, if you elevate a portion of a culture, that it kind of seeps out to the rest of the thought process behind the whole as being smart or talented. I guess you could look at that when you would think of even the Olympics. Like when you see a country winning over and over
Yeah.
in a certain sport, you're like, oh, wow, those are very athletic people. Gosh,
Hmm.
humans are so simple. Like,
Well,
what?
okay, it's just like this example. Like when I was growing up, Asian men were very emasculated. Like when you saw them on TV, it was either they were a kung fu guy or it was like Revenge of the Nerds, that guy, or like the guy in 16 Candles, like
16
very
candles.
cringy,
Yep.
awful, like pathetic characters that are embarrassing to look at. But now with K-pop and BTS, I go on TikTok and there's all these non-Asian girls saying, I want a South Korean boyfriend. And that was not anything I saw growing up, but media just like influenced them to now desire Asian males. So we're very easy to control, us humans.
Yeah, I never looked at it in quite that way before, but if you think about it, it's elevate or talk about or, point a light, shine a light on a group of people, and then all of a sudden your brain's like, "Oh, they're smart or they're
Hmm.
bad." I do talk about that, I have talked about that on social media about how the nightly news, talks about this black person and that black person and this black person is bad, is bad, is bad, and it's just like, wonder if they would highlight all the people that are doing bad things that are white, if it would
Mm,
still make the nightly news. And it is true, like they are feeding our brains to program it that these people are good and these people are bad and these people are talented and these people are whatever. And I don't even think, but I this goes back to the memoirs of a
geisha.
geisha, memoirs of a geisha. I knew I was going to say it wrong. And the Joy Luck Club is that we read the books and then we believe a certain stereotype, and that's all that we can move forward with until our mind is changed. And COVID did not help that in any way. World War II did not help that in any way. And so now we're seeing a reemergence, or the beginning of maybe of really changing that, which if you think about it, these governments are brilliant to say, hey, wait a minute, like we're not just that, one thing that you have been told. But isn't that the truth though with American education system, is that we are given the books that we are given,
Hmm.
and we read all the white guys were great, and they changed everything, they invented everything,
Hmm.
they were the greatest of all times. And I think that this idea right now of, I think they're shutting down even a portion of the Holocaust Museum right now
Are
to
you serious?
ensure, yeah, to ensure and change a part of it that was really heavily not anti-American, but telling the story of America's part in the Holocaust
Oh.
and wanting to remove that. And I think that, doing that, obviously, I get what they're doing based on what you and I are talking about right now. But at the same time, I think that it strips us of the history to do then better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I don't know if I'm a fan of like we're banning books now and just like
Yeah.
removing. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that option. I think like also I'm really not a fan of like the cancel culture. It's just
Yeah.
like we learn. So yes, like call them out if they did something, but like do we need to like for example the Love Island controversy? I wrote about it for Teen Vogue. I don't know if you noticed that when one of the girls, Sierra Ortega, got kicked off the show because she was saying the C word about Asian eyes in a
Oh,
not
yeah.
positive
Okay.
manner. And then she was getting death threats and like her people called ICE on her family. And I was like, this
Oh,
is
wow.
like out of control. Like, yes, we should point it out and say, please don't do that. But like, she got kicked off the show. Like, I thought the punishment was maybe a little too extreme.
I think there's definitely, when it comes to cancel culture, I think that there's, the idea of, okay, let's sit down and have a conversation. I remember my the beginning of my journey into really understanding my own racism growing up in a white community with white parents, and intention, and like all of these things I had to kind of sort through. And I had some really great friends who are Black, and basically sat me down and be like, no, you know what I mean? Or like like just, and it was painful. It was very, very painful because I always saw myself as a nice person. And so for them to sit me down, and but then when you know better, you do better. And
Mhm.
then you really go to town, and hopefully. I think it's when you're 10 toes down and you're like, no, like, I'm going to touch your hair. I'm going to, whatever the hell it is at the time. I mean, it's so not a part of myself anymore. It's hard to even remember what it was that they were helping me with. But oh, I made a video that said, "Can everyone stop saying the N word?" or something like that, and Black people were like, "We'll do what we want," and like it was that very naivete of not understanding. It's not my place to tell anyone what to do, no matter how uncomfortable it makes. One of those things that you screw up,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
so
it's like we can't expect people to know these things either, but I think it's important to be willing to say, "Oh, I didn't know that. That was a mistake. I'm willing to learn." I think
yeah.
it's just important to like be able to be wrong sometimes. We're all of us are wrong sometimes. We don't know everything. Nobody knows everything.
But I think we stifle the conversation when we're afraid of being canceled. We don't even bring up the
Mm,
question.
that's true,
Like
yeah.
that's the thing. Like I said, I wrote down a lot of your questions because I even wanted to get my verbiage right based on your book, because I was like, something as like acceptable race. I did it, and I have it over here in quotes, because I didn't want to say like the good race. I know that sounds stupid, but those things matter. And I wanted to make sure and get them right, because when you're on a podcast and you're just running your mouth, like you could
Mhm,
screw up the right verbiage. It does matter. It does matter if you hurt people's feelings, but it also matters if you change. But I also think you have to have the conversation
mhm.
to make that change. Um, do you think that, when you talked about this idea of being, and I never thought, I mean, the amount of brain explosions during this reading of your book, when you were talking about this idea of being exotic, and it really means that whiteness is the standard and exotic reduces women to sexual fantasy rather than true beauty. I mean, holy shit, bombs. I mean, it's so, and I know you got to be you, and you got to be you to get it and get these words out, but when I read that, I was like, holy shit.
And yeah, I don't think anybody says exotic and means it as an insult. Like they're
Never.
genuinely trying to say like
Yeah.
give a compliment. But it's like you don't go to Asia and have any Asian guy calling an Asian woman exotic, right? That's very Western centered, which is I guess fine because we are in the West. But I think it's important to like just understand the nuance.
Yeah. But I mean, so if someone said, God, you're so exotic, where are you at with that now, knowing all the things?
I think I'm fine with it, like, if you said it because you do not have an Asian fetish and you're not trying to objectify me. So it really depends on the person who's delivering it and their intention also. So if it's like some guy who's like sleeping with dozens of Asian girls and treating them as disposable and then calling me exotic, then I'm mad.
Yeah. Do you think that there is such a thing as having an Asian type? Like women have like a tall type and a brown hair type or olive skin type or whatever. Can a white male have an Asian type, or do you think it's pretty much always a fetish of some sort?
No, I don't think it's always a fetish. And here's the thing, because like so many guys are like, you hate white men, when like my book came out or whatever. And I'm like, first of all, read it because I think you'll get that I don't hate white men or any men, but like, I don't think that most men who are with Asian women have an Asian fetish. I think the bulk of them are maybe love and attraction. Maybe like the small percentage that are the fetishists are the ones that are very extreme. Like, I don't know if you saw White Lotus, but there was
Yeah.
that guy who was played by Sam Rockwell, and he went to Thailand and he was sleeping with like hundreds and hundreds of Asian women, any type, any size, it didn't matter, to find himself. So that would be more fetishist. I think, a preference, that one, I don't want to judge or limit anybody's, say you can't have a preference for this and that. I myself would be uncomfortable dating someone who had dated 5 Asian women in a row. That's just my personal feeling about it. Um, yeah, that's a hard one to answer. Yeah, I've answered it before. I don't know why I'm having a hard time today, but
No, you're
like,
fine.
maybe because it's early and I'm out of it.
Yeah,
But
it's 7 a.m. where you're at.
I would say that's like a very case by case basis.
Yeah. So you can
Like,
kind of almost feel it out, like when someone's got like a weirdness versus just like
yeah.
whatever. I think a
Yeah,
lot
like,
of people, like Americans, white Americans, um, unless you really are leaning it, like if you go to South Philly, there is such a strong culture of like Italian Americans. They still make the pasta on Sunday. They all go to grandma's. Everyone lives within 4 blocks of each other. The spaghetti sauce has been, on the stove all day. That's culture.
mm,
I myself, have family that is Puerto Rican, okay? And for me, that culture was so strong and so much stronger than my Irish culture growing up. Like you have St. Patrick's Day and then it's kind of over, at least for my family. And so it was always special to me, the food, the music, the dancing, the loudness, the language. I think that I was very drawn to a culture that was strong and structured. And I can see why someone that might not have a strong personal culture, because pizza and hot dogs isn't really a culture so much, would lean into someone if they did have strong culture. Now, if you just look a certain way, that might not be culture. But if you're doing all of the things, I myself as a white person would be very much drawn to like, wow, you're doing all the. And some people have that as a religion, like all of a sudden they're going to be changing to Jewish. And so they have Shabbat and they have, all of these things that they do. I can see that as being definitely a thing if the person was maybe a practicing Korean or person that was practicing inside of like the language and the food of that. Does that make sense?
yeah, okay. And it clicked into my mind like, oh, the difference between a fetish and a preference. It's like kind of the fetish is a any Asian woman will do. It doesn't
Okay.
matter. And
Yeah.
it's also the expectation of behavior. So it's not like, oh, you have a beautiful culture. That's totally fine. It's more like, I like Asian women because they're submissive. They're not loud like American women who have so many demands and like want
Yeah.
equality and all of that. I think that falls more into a fetish because it's like a male superiority kind of thing and
Yeah.
dominance.
We I mean, your book is just so damn eye-opening. It's so good. I wish everyone had to read it. What is your goal and do you plan on writing more because it's so like your viewpoints and your personal experiences and I don't know, the way you broke it down just changed me so much about all cultures. It really let me kind of step inside of these moments, realizations and go, holy shit, like my brain's been working in one direction and now it's broken in the most beautiful way and is going in this other direction. Do you see yours? I mean, you should be a professor somewhere. You just, you're doing such a good job. I love it so much.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking of writing a second book. I'm not sure on what yet. Um, but yes, it's funny because I fell into writing and it was like not something I ever planned to do in my life, but like um it's such a joy to have discovered this thing for someone who's so dependent on like validation outside. It's like writing is a career that doesn't depend on what you look like. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I can do it until I die. And I just like imagine the horror. And not there's nothing wrong with pursuing entertainment career at this age, but for me, if I was still like chasing that, it's a hard business, the entertainment business, to pursue at any age. But as you're older, you're fighting all these like structural things that are working against you. And I think I wouldn't be happy, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the criticism is tough. I mean, um, yeah, and small-mindedness. I just when I was reading through your book and I just kept seeing like how many people would benefit. And like you said, I don't think it's the young people. I think that the young people have it so right so often right now.
They
It's
know
the
more than
people,
us.
God, they're so good. Like, like if I probably gave this to my daughters or my sons, they'd be like, duh. Like like they would be like, "Duh, mom, no kidding." You know, God, for us, for me, anyways, being a Gen Xer, and the older people, I just there's so much in this. There's personal experience, the way you break it down, the addiction issues that you went through. All of it is just so um powerful. Even breaking down like the Full Metal Jacket, and was it Two Live Crew?
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God, that song was so big. Me so
Oh my
horny.
god. And you know what? Of course, I must have been talking about it to my husband when I was talking about your book, and of course, now I just keep getting fed shit about that.
Are you serious? That's
Yeah.
so
I'm like,
specific.
you can't say anything near your phone or you get it fed. I was talking to my girlfriend about her bunion and I
Oh
started
my
getting bunion ads on Instagram. I'm like,
God.
I don't have a bunion. Why are you feeding me this? Stop listening to me. But like all that stuff was nothing to us in Gen X of, me love you long time shit. And that even that woman, I believe she's Hispanic, and she did the comedy show of the Asian nail tech.
I
She's
think I remember something about this.
Yeah, like your boyfriend likes them long, or let me fix them for you. Like she does the whole Asian, and we've seen people be canceled for doing the Asian American accent nail tech kind of joking and all that stuff. And being a Gen Xer, I remember watching that being like, what's the big deal? It's
Mm,
funny. But then you lean into and realize I'm characterizing a community. Like this isn't funny. These are actual people or people that do, pranks and make calls to people that have businesses that are like that is dangerous behavior. And you'll have people on the other side going, what's the big deal? Everybody's, like so sensitive. And it's just like, yes, but you don't realize that this plus this turns into danger. It turns
mm,
into othering. It turns into less than, it turns into a caricature. And I think that to me is a huge conversation of understanding that othering by way of these jokes and these little tiny aggressions and microaggressions is what leads to things like COVID
mm. Like violence. Yeah.
violence. Because like there's people that don't care about hurting people that are less than human.
Hmm.
And so if we keep and continuing to make it no big deal, then everything becomes no big deal. And I think that that's really powerful is in waking up the world to that the way that we've been thinking, the way that we've been programmed is dangerous.
Yeah, it's hard. It's all like woven into our country. I mean, like violence is woven into our culture with our movies and our TV and everything. So I think the awareness is just like the first step, the
Yeah.
willingness to learn and just like analyze what we're at an age where we're getting bombarded with information, and now with AI it's like what's real and what isn't, but it's like that ability to step back and just be a little bit more discerning about what you're consuming.
Yeah.
That even like goes down with like the conspiracy theorists, because like people are just consuming it and assuming it's true, not like
Yeah.
checking, well, who is this person, and like what is their authority in giving this information.
Yeah. It's so huge. It's so huge. Thank you so much for coming on. Your book is without a doubt a very, very important read for anybody. It's powerful. It's chilling. It's sad. It's eye opening. It's a win all around. Fetishized, reckoning with yellow fever, feminism, and beauty. Kaila Yu, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. Thank you for sending me the book. I always tell people, like, here's your PDF copy. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not reading PDF. I am way too old to read PDF. I can't even. If you don't want to send me the full copy, I'm out. So thank you for my very own copy. I will cherish this. I will give this to my daughters and sons to educate them, because it is very, very important information. And I so appreciate you coming on and spending time with me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for having a great conversation.
It's the best. You're the best. Everybody, I will see you here next week with another amazing guest. Thank you, Kaila Yu. You're the best. You could even see her in the Fast and the Furious, even if it's just for a blip. She's still in there. And check her out everywhere. She's seen on social media, TikTok, Instagram, all the places, and writing for some really big news outlets. I hope that they have you everywhere. Give this woman her own column. She needs to educate the population. And I will see you guys here all next week. Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening. If you would like to connect on a more personal level, head over to meredithwillits.com or on Instagram at Meredith with a Y for behind-the-scene footage and outtakes. Please subscribe and come back each week for more Meredith with a Y. Thanks again for listening. Cheers.